Welcome back to Touring History X, Y, and Z, where we discuss all the things that happened on July 5th and how it relates to generations. I'm Dave.
And I'm Generation Lane. Before we dive into today's triple shot of historical chaos, let's give a shout out to our new sponsor, Hi-Ho Cheeseburgers.
Yummy.
You know what I love about Hi-Ho?
What?
They're not messing around with any mystery meat. They're the only burger joint that exclusively serves 100% grass-fed Wagyu beef. And we're talking New Zealand Wagyu from First Light Farms, which sounds way fancier than my usual Tuesday dinner.
Well, it's not Wagyu, it's Wag Me. That's right. They're literally the only burger restaurant that exclusively serves 100% grass-fed Wagyu beef. And according to the Wall Street Journal, if you find grass-fed Wagyu, you buy it. Plus, it's lower in saturated fat and higher in heart-healthy omega-3s, vitamins, and antioxidants. So you can feel slightly less guilty about that double cheeseburger. Woohoo!
Yeah, speaking of doubles, they've got locations all over LA, Santa Monica, Mid-Wilshire, Marina Del Rey, and Studio City. Check them out at hiho.la. But enough about premium beef for now. Let's talk about July 5th.
Yes, enough of those doubles. July 5th, the day after America celebrated breaking up with Britain, and history decided to keep delivering some pretty wild moments, my friend. Today, we're looking at 3 events from this date that shaped different generations in totally different ways.
Yeah, for listeners just joining us, we pick one date and find 3 historical events that specifically hit different generations where they live. Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z. Each group experienced history through their own lens.
That's right. But first, let's see who decided to make their grand entrance the day after Independence Day with a couple of birthdays.
Birthdays! Yay! Birthday roll call for July 5th. We got quite the crew.
But first up is Megan Rapinoe, who turns 39 today. The purple-haired soccer icon who basically became the face of, I'm here to play soccer and fight for equal pay, and I'm all out of soccer. Wait. No, I'm not. She is now, but...
Then we've got Edie Falco hitting 61, Carmela Soprano herself. You know what's wild? She managed to make us root for the wife of a mob boss. That's serious acting chops.
Yeah, I also loved her nurse, Jackie. She was
great at it. That was awesome. That was a good one.
I think that was the better role for her. Anyway, Huey Lewis, 75 today. And I'm legally required to mention that the News, Huey Lewis, the News, is indeed still with us. The man soundtracked every Gen X coming-of-age movie from the 1980s. I mean, he was everywhere. Well,
absolutely. And here's one that might surprise you. Shohei Ohtani turns 31. Wow. The baseball player who basically said, why choose between pitching and hitting? And then proceeded to be historically good at both.
And he said it all in Japanese because he doesn't speak English.
There you go.
But he makes a lot of money, though, so who cares? Plus, we've got Pauly D from Jersey Shore. Hey, what's going on, Pauly? And Jason Dolly, who Disney Channel kids will remember. So, yeah, quite the range of post-July 5th achievement.
Yeah, now on to the main event. 3 July 5th moments that hit different generations in completely different ways.
So, 1775, it was called the Olive Branch Petition. Yes, this is peak Gen X energy, and here's why. Picture this. You're dealing with a completely dysfunctional relationship. I don't know anything about those. With authority. I don't know anything about that either. But you're still trying to make it work through proper channels.
Oh, this is good. The Continental Congress basically wrote the ultimate, it's not you, it's me letter to King George III. They're like, hey, we're not mad. We just want to talk through this like adults.
Yeah, are you up for that, please? Right. They're literally saying, we don't want to break up with Britain. We just want you to stop being terrible to us. Stop taxing our tea. It's the most Gen X thing ever, dealing with institutional failure, while believing the system might work if you just follow the right process. Huh?
Yeah. And you know what gets me about this, Dave?
What?
They spent so much time crafting this perfectly reasonable letter, and King George basically left them unread. Like, didn't even open it, just declared them all rebels instead.
I don't need to read it. Someone read it for me.
What is this, a strongly worded letter? Who
Yeah.
do they think they are?
Oh, that rabble. Let them eat cake. Uh-oh. No, I didn't say that. And that's exactly why this hit Gen X so hard. They're the generation that grew up watching institutions fail them repeatedly. Corporate downsizing, pension plans evaporating. Who has a pension anymore? The whole work hard and you'll be rewarded promise turning out to be mostly nonsense.
Yeah, Gen
Cynical.
X learned Yeah, Gen X learned early that you can follow all the rules, submit all the right paperwork, and still get completely screwed over. The Olive Branch petition is basically their origin story, trying to work within the system right up until the moment you realize the system doesn't actually care about you at all.
Oh, yeah, and plus there's something very Gen X about the whole thing being a collective effort that ultimately failed. They're used to being the forgotten middle child generation, watching their careful compromises get ignored while everyone else gets to eat cake.
Dear King George, we tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. Wait, no, we tried everything and you're out of ideas. Classic.
Yeah, but okay, let's move on from that. There was
Yes.
something to do with, sheep. You know who I'm talking about?
Well, hello.
Come on, man.
Well, hello, Dolly.
There you go. While America was recovering from its 220th birthday hangover, a little sheep named Dolly in 1996 on July 5th was born in Scotland, and she was about to blow millennials' minds about what was possible. Haggis for everyone. Oh, wait a minute. You don't want that if you're Dolly.
No. Yeah. Dolly was the first mammal cloned from an adult somatic cell. And for millennials, this was like watching science fiction become reality in real time. They're the generation that grew up with Jurassic Park, and suddenly actual genetic engineering was happening.
Yeah, it happens all the time. People clone their dogs that have died. It's kind of weird. And here's why this specifically hits millennials. They were the first generation to grow up understanding that technology could completely rewrite the rules of reality. Like your parents told you about the birds and the bees, but then science said, actually, we can skip all that and just copy paste. You don't need to go in that room, okay, boys and girls?
Right. And think about the timing 1996. Millennials were kids and teenagers right in that sweet spot where you're old enough to understand the implications, but young enough to not be terrified by them. They were like, oh, cool, we can clone sheep. What else can we do?
Weird science. This is peak millennial optimism about technology. They're the generation that believed tech would solve everything: climate change, inequality, even death itself. Dolly represented this idea that with enough science and innovation and boys in the lab, we could literally rewrite the natural order. Scary.
But here's where it gets really millennial the ethics debates that followed. They're also the generation that grew up constantly questioning whether just because we can do something means we should.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted the cool sci fi future, but they also wanted to make sure it was, ethical, not going to
Yeah.
blow the world up.
Or make something that'll eat you. Right.
Yeah.
So other generations might have been like cloning. Why, that's playing God. Or cloning? Sign me up. I want two of me. But millennials were like, cloning? Okay, but what are the long term societal implications? And can we make sure this helps everyone, not just rich people who want to clone themselves?
Yeah. Plus, Dolly lived until 2003, which means millennials got to watch the entire arc the breakthrough, the hope, the complications, and ultimately the reminder that even revolutionary technology can't solve everything. Very
So,
formative.
not, yeah, I mean, 96 to 2003, do the math for, is 7 years old. Is that the lifespan of a sheep? I don't know.
I don't know, Dave.
Well,
Someone
I
should
only
Google that.
question because if you're cloning yourself, are you going to die at 23 because they couldn't quite get it right? I mean, these are
Yeah,
things you
you
need.
just your DNA just starts falling apart. And,
Right, right.
yeah.
Say, "Ah, damn it, let's try it again." And pretty soon there are about 8 lanes walking around. Which
No, we
lane are
don't
you
need
in?
that.
And now they're adults dealing with CRISPR. That's an interesting one. And gene editing. And they're the ones saying, uh-oh, remember Dolly? Maybe we should think this through a bit more. The sheep that taught a generation to ask better questions.
That's right. All right, time for a quick break to talk more about our amazing sponsor, Hi-Ho Cheeseburgers.
Wow, you know what I love about Hi-Ho Lane?
What, Dave?
They're not just making burgers, they're crafting an experience.
It's
That one,
true.
I'm going in my breathy voice here. That's 100% grass-fed Wagyu. Beef isn't just about taste. It's about knowing exactly what you're putting in your body. Plus, their signature Hi-Ho double with mustard grilled beef, cheese, ketchup, onion, jam, lettuce, and house-made pickles? Huh, what the hell is onion jam? That's not just a burger, that's architecture.
And in honor of July 5th, the day that apparently history decided needed some extra attention, might I suggest treating yourself to something that's actually worth celebrating? Independently sourced, independently delicious, and independently worth the drive to Santa Monica, Mid-Wilshire, Marina Del Rey, or Studio City.
That's right. Plus, if you're stuck in traffic on one place on the 405 or the 10, pull over to one of these four places. They've got those twice fried hand cut fries and house made lemonade, because sometimes you need to celebrate your independence from mediocre fast food. Even if it's not technically Independence Day, check them out at hiho.la.
Yeah, now back to our final event, and this one's for the digital natives.
That's right, it involves that newly married guy, Jeff Bezos.
Ooh, what could he do?
Well, he founded Amazon on July
Oh,
5th,
huh.
1994. While everyone was probably still recovering from barbecues and fireworks, Jeff decided to start something that would change commerce forever. Amazon was born in Seattle, and with it, the entire concept of modern digital shopping.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, Amazon affects everyone, not just Gen Z. And
True.
you'd be right. But here's the thing: Gen Z doesn't remember a world without Amazon. They
Mm.
never had to explain to their parents why buying things online was safe.
Exactly. Millennials remember getting their first Amazon package, which was probably a book, and being like, this is amazing, but also slightly terrifying. Gen X was like, I'm not giving my credit card to some website. But Gen Z was born into a world where same day delivery was basically a human right and totally taken for granted.
Yeah, Gen Z grew up with the expectation that everything should be instantaneous, personalized, and delivered to your door. They don't see Amazon as this revolutionary company. They see it as basic infrastructure like electricity or running water.
And a toilet that works. And that's what makes so specifically Gen Z. They're the first generation to grow up with algorithmic recommendations. Wow. As just normal. The idea that a computer somewhere knows what you want before you do. That's a little frightening. That's not futuristic sci fi to them. That's Tuesday.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Gen Z is also the first generation to grow up seeing the downsides of the system in real time. They understand digital privacy and they know about data collection. They've watched the rise of Amazon and also its impact on workers, small businesses, and the environment.
Right. They're simultaneously the most comfortable with digital commerce and, thankfully, the most critical of it. They'll use Amazon Prime while also organizing boycotts over labor practices, probably ordering on Amazon those vests that say strike. They want the convenience, but they're not naive about the costs.
It's like they inherited this amazing digital world that previous generations built, but they're also the ones who have to figure out how to live in it responsibly. They're digital natives, but they're also digital activists.
Ooh, plus, think about how this shaped their entire economic worldview. Gen Z doesn't just expect convenience, they expect transparency, sustainability, and social responsibility. They're the generation saying, sure, deliver my package in 2 days, but also pay your workers fairly and don't destroy the planet. Tall
Yeah.
order, folks.
Amazon becoming a massive part of daily life on July 5th, 1994, essentially set the stage for every conversation Gen Z has about technology, capitalism, and social responsibility. They're living in the world that decision created, and they're the ones who have to figure out what comes next.
Hmm. Deep thoughts. So, there
Yes,
you
that's
have
what I
it.
specialize in, Dave. That and eating hi-ho cheeseburgers.
Yes, Wagyu. July 5th. Through these generational lenses, Gen X trying to work with failing systems, millennials believing technology could save the world, and Gen Z inheriting a digital world they have to figure out and how to live in it responsibly.
Hey, you know what's wild, Dave?
No. Rice? What?
All three of these events are fundamentally about the same thing: dealing with power, whether it's political, scientific, or economic. But each generation approached it completely differently based on what they were dealing with at the time.
Yes, the olive branch petition was about political compromise in the face of institutional failure. Dolly was about scientific possibility in an age of technological optimism. And Amazon, their ever present big brother, was about economic convenience in a digital world that needed new rules.
And speaking of new rules, huge thanks again to Hi Ho Cheeseburgers for sponsoring today's episode. They've got
Thanks.
locations. Sorry, Dave.
Thanks. Hi
Hey,
ho.
hi ho! They've got locations in Santa Monica, Mid-Wilshire, Marina Del Rey, and Studio City, all serving up that premium grass-fed Wagyu that's actually better for you than regular beef. Check them out at hiho.la.
But wait, Lane, before we go, we want to hear from you. We're working on an animated version, not you, Lane, but
Oh,
you listening. We're working on an animated version of this podcast with our robot answering machine, Says So. Say hello, Says So. Hello. And we want your voice to be part of it.
yeah, it's real easy. Just record a voice memo telling us about your favorite historical date, whether it's your birthday, your graduation, your wedding, or just some random date that means something to you. If we use your voice memo in the animated version of the podcast, you'll get to see Says So bring your story to life.
And we're going to have Says So use your accent from wherever you're from. So, for example, if you're from Boston, hey, how about that chowder? Good chowder. Or if you're from Texas, now listen here, little lady. So Says So will duplicate anything you say to it and come out with your accent. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week with another date, another set of birthdays, and 3 more events that shaped different generations in totally different ways. So stay tuned and come back.
Yeah, until then, remember, history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. And sometimes it rhymes with delivered in 2 days with free prime shipping.
Is that Buster Rhymes? All right. Thank you for touring history with us. We'll see you next time in Touring History X, Y, and Z.
Bye.